The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today, Amber and Scott are unpacking After the Hunt, where college halls meet very dark corners and no one comes out clean. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
So I love our society where it's your word versus mine, unless I'm a minority female whose parents have a lot of money. Then it's my word versus screw you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say whether or not she's right or not, but that's just to say when you...
People with money do frequently get different treatment. And
it's true.
Maggie came from money.
It's true.
All right, folks, let's dig into today's episode. Our film is After the Hunt, a gripping psychological drama about a college professor who finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star student levels an accusation against one of her colleagues and a dark secret from her own past threatens to come into the light. So this film starred Julia Roberts and a music soundtrack, because the music was definitely Julia Roberts' co-star. It was so present, so overwhelming in ridiculous ways. And then the third star was shots of people's hands and really strange close-ups at points that made no sense.
Yeah. I don't know what Trent Reznor was doing, but that music did not... Like, I kind of thought a few times I was watching a horror film based on the music.
Yeah, every time she threw up, there was like, no. Yeah, it was very distracting.
A little, shall we say, high on the fartsy and low on the artsy.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, we have Alma, who is a professor at Yale, and her colleague Hank, who is also a professor, and they work in the philosophy department. And we start with Alma and her husband hosting a party, of which there's some faculty there, there's some students there. Maggie is our student, who is the one you were referencing earlier, the young African-American woman who comes from money. And it's not just money, it's that her family donated like half of the campus.
And that campus is Yale. So you can imagine how much money that is.
Yeah. So Hank starts asking her questions about her work, and no. Anyway, Maggie goes to the bathroom. She can't find toilet paper. She looks around. She sees something taped to the top of a shelf. And in good neighborly fashion, she untapes it and goes through it because obviously someone was trying to hide it. So let's take a look at it.
Were they? I mean, yeah, at first I thought, no, there's no toilet paper back there. The toilet paper's down under. Like, this was taped to be found. But as we went on, I don't think that's the case. I think that was just a really shitty hiding spot.
I mean, it was the bottom shelf. You had to get down on the ground, and it was taped underneath the shelf. You wouldn't have noticed it was there because you normally would have just grabbed what you wanted. No, I mean, Alma was hiding it. And that leads us to our first, what would you do? If you were at a party in someone's house and you were looking for something, or you're looking for toilet paper, which is a legitimate thing to be looking around a little bit to try and find some toilet paper, and you found something taped to the underneath of a shelf, an envelope, would you?
Yes.
Would you really?
Probably.
That's really disturbing because someone invites you into their home and then you go prattling through their stuff and violating their privacy.
I'm not going to take it, but...
You're not going to take it? You think that's where the line is taking it?
Listen, if I'm in that position and I see that envelope hanging there in that way, I am going to be overcome with curiosity.
Wow, that's terrible. That's really terrible.
You shouldn't put something like that there.
In your own home, in your own bathroom, you're taping something so you can access it, but it's not anywhere like in your desk or your drawers or your bulletin board. You're trying to keep it accessible where you can reach, but also private. You would actually violate hosts. I hope anyone who's listening to us hears this and never invites us to a party, because that's terrible.
Don't put it up front, dead center.
It wasn't up front, dead center. It was up front on a shelf that Maggie literally had to get down on the floor on her knees
Yeah,
to
because
bend
the toilet
down.
paper was all the way in the back. That's why I thought at first, literally, it was there to be found.
Well, okay, that never occurred to me, and of course it was not. Okay, well, this has been very enlightening, and anyone who invites us to your home, I apologize in advance. I take no responsibility for the bad judgment of Scott here.
Listen, if there's toilet paper out, we're not going to have this issue.
Wow.
I'm just saying
I'm
you should
sorry,
probably
folks.
keep a roll of toilet paper on the back of your toilet if you're going to be directing guests back there.
Well, that is a good what would you do is always leave ample toilet paper out if you're hosting guests, but
Don't give them a reason to rummage.
wow, that's rummaging and finding something is one thing. Actually untaping it, opening up the envelope, pulling everything out of the envelope and reading it, and then taking a piece of the thing.
Now that was beyond.
Oh, that's the line,
Well,
is taking it?
Taking. Well, yes, theft is definitely.
I'm sorry, folks. This
like
is
if you leave
embarrassing.
it, listen, if you leave it the way you found it, that's one thing. If you leave it minus things, that's theft.
Okay, so the first one's just, I don't know, an obscene violation of
Listen.
privacy. The second one's theft.
Listen, I don't even know if I would have cared to know all the specifics of what was in that envelope. Like, I just would have wanted to know what type of thing they were putting in that envelope. Was
You're
it
nosy. It's none of your business. It's someone else's home that they have invited you into their home. Why would you think you had any right to look at anybody else's stuff?
was she rummaging around looking for an envelope or trying to find something? No, normal. Like
It
normal.
doesn't matter.
Listen, don't leave something you're trying to hide in a position where it's not that difficult to find.
It was on the bottom shelf in the bathroom
she found
where
it.
she had to kneel down on her hands and knees to even have access to that bottom
But she
shelf.
wasn't going around trying to snoop.
But that doesn't-
She found it on accident.
It doesn't
if you really
matter.
don't want that being found, don't put it somewhere where it can be found on accident.
Yes, and normally they have the guest bathroom they use, but there was reason that couldn't be used, so then she had to direct Maggie to the back bathroom. So apparently she hadn't locked down her secrets, so...
Well, clearly this is a couple who like to entertain. They seem to
Yes, and
do
they-
so. So I'm not going to... Honestly, I'm not going to put things that are my secrets
Well,
in a
she
place
didn't-
where I'm going to send people that's designed to lock the door behind them.
She didn't say, oh, I'm going to have a party. Let me go and put my secret envelope in this bathroom. It was probably in there. It's normally not a bathroom that's accessible when they have parties, but given
Well,
the
they said
circumstance...
they said you need to go use the guest bathroom.
She said, I don't use the bathroom you normally use. There's something going on in there.
Go use the guest bathroom.
Go use the other bathroom.
They actually said guest bathroom.
Okay. Anyway, this is embarrassing because now anytime I take you anywhere, I feel like you can't go somewhere unattended because you're going to violate our host's privacy.
As so long as I've got access to toilet paper, never an issue.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm putting a rope around your neck, putting the rope through the spool of toilet paper and hanging around your neck so you're never in that situation because I would be horrified to know that you did that.
Honestly, it's fine. The only time
It's not fine.
The only time we go to parties is when we're at a sweater built for two, so it doesn't matter. You're with me anyway.
Yes, that was a Christmas party. Anyway, so to get to the crux of the film, Maggie goes home after this party they have, and Hank, who has had a few things to drink, leaves at the same time, and they get on the elevator at the same time, and they're talking. And the next day, we have Maggie show up at Alma's house, Professor Alma, and says... Hank came in, he wanted a nightcap, and he crossed the line. And Alma, I would say naturally, but I don't even know based on this film, and that's naturally. She said, what does that mean? I think that's a fair question.
That's a perfectly fair question.
And yet Maggie was acting oppressed of like, why do you need to know details? It's like, you know what? If you're accusing someone of something, you do need to say the words. And yet I don't know if this is a generational divide because cross the line could be, he said, you look hot, or cross the line could be, he tied you up to a chair and, did God knows what to you.
Yes. You and I are now in 1,000,000% agreement on this one. Like for one, just because I have a vagina and you have a vagina doesn't mean that you're automatically telling the truth. One. Two, you're right. Cross the line is a different line for everyone. Even if she is telling the truth, like, you don't really know what and they never really say what cross the line is.
Yeah, and the thing is when Alma asks this of Maggie, Maggie acts insanely offended. You know, this is private. Why do I need to tell you? Why are you asking? And
why the fuck are you here then?
And then after Alma asked another follow-up question to something that was not clear that Maggie said, Maggie basically said, this was a bad idea, I gotta go, and she left.
I would have immediately, and honestly did immediately think that Maggie was lying at that. Immediately. Because you're going to the person you theoretically trust in this, and you're not willing to answer some questions for them because all of a sudden it looks like they might actually be trying to figure out the truth, and you don't want to answer that. That is sus AF.
So then we go to our next character in this situation, Hank, the other professor, who Maggie is making this allegation about, and Hank says, "Hey, I caught her cheating. She's a very mediocre student, even though the movie description says she's a star student. We learned that she's a very mediocre student who's calling it in, basically riding on the coattails of her parents, and she
plagiarizing her dissertation.
Yeah, so he caught her cheating on a test, and then had an insanely strong suspicion of her plagiarizing her paper because he was like, "There's chunks in there that are verbatim," and it was really obvious. And I asked to go up to her room or up to her apartment because I kind of wanted to dig into this off-site, outside of campus, to get her guard down and see what I could find out because I think she's a cheater.
That's not why she said they wanted to go to the room. That's why they wanted to get a nightcap and do things off of campus. I think...
Well, that's why he said, you know, come up for a drink or whatever, because he wanted to spend more time with her outside of campus to try and dig into this.
Yeah, they didn't really specify if the nightcap was at a bar or if the nightcap
it was at the house, because we see the glasses the day after on Maggie's table.
Yeah.
So we have two conflicting stories here. We have Maggie who says Hank crossed the line, and we have Hank who said, I was going up to her apartment to try and find out, you know, the extent of this cheating and this plagiarizing, and to talk with her outside of the traditional academic environment. And yeah, I guess that was a bad idea. No kidding. Good God. You know, this is a conversation you and I have had on several occasions, is don't put yourself in compromising situations that it could result in a he said, she said situation.
Okay, well, number one, yes, correct. Don't do that. Though I will say this. If I'm in a situation where two people are telling me stories and somewhere in those stories there is something that's verifiable and it could be considered, quote, the original sin,
What are you talking about?
I am going to tend to believe the person not committing the original sin, and in this case the original sin was the plagiarism. Like, that's verifiable that she plagiarized her dissertation, and like,
yeah, why do you even need to dig around for that? You could just bring that to the dean and be like, okay, this is the source and this is her paper. Like, you don't even need to dig around for that. You could literally put it in front of some sort of academic committee.
Yeah, but it sounds like that he wanted her to have a good reason, or he wanted her to have something. I don't know.
Well, and when her parents are donors who keep that school going, I can understand that there's some nuances there that maybe you don't want to just lodge accusations.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely shouldn't have done it the way that he did it. No question. That said, I mean, listen, the whole she made up something to cover up for the fact that
She who?
Maggie.
Okay.
Made up something to cover for the fact that he busted her on plagiarism. Like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you want to put the person who is attacking you on the defense to immediately discredit them in anything that they might say and come out ahead of the thing, so then the other person is defending themselves. And that was throughout the film, we never got 100% certainty as to who was lying and who was telling the truth. We kind of felt certain ways as the movie progressed, but they never really told us outright.
Like, I mean, certainly the instance near the end with Hank and Alma where Hank got a little too aggressive.
Well, and they also have a history. Keep in mind that they had been involved at some point in the past, so it wasn't just completely...
Yeah, but no still means no, even if you had a past.
It does. It does.
It does.
It does.
I'm going to take up the side of the women on this one.
Yeah,
it does.
No, it does. But the only reason there was hesitation there is because, number one, Hank and Alma do have a sexual history. And at the beginning, the kiss was mutual, the touching was mutual, until
Hank got a little too aggressive.
He got a little too rough, and she was trying to pull away, and then finally threw him off and said, get off me. So obviously, if you're moving at a much different speed and intensity of someone else, that's not something to ignore.
That said, honestly, I still am more likely to believe Hank than Maggie on this one. Now, that said, I do think that there could have been some measure of coming on to. There could have been some form of advances of him in a drunk state. But I don't think it progressed to a state of it being truly over the line. I think it might have been that she saw an angle. Maggie saw an angle that she could say, okay, I'm going to accuse him of this because if I don't do something, he's going to try to bust me on my dissertation, which is stupid because her dissertation was out there. Like, that's not a he said, she said. That's a you wrote, you didn't write. And more in this case, you didn't write situation that's very clear. It's bad logic.
And to add further muddying of the waters, since Hank did have this history with Alma and still has feelings for her, and there's 2 times that are alluded to that Maggie also has feelings for Alma. You have these 2 people coming to her with 2 very different stories that also have feelings for Alma.
Well, see, that's the other thing, too. I think this was about everything we've discussed, but I think it's also partially about Maggie trying to drive a wedge between Hank and Alma, because Maggie knew that they had a past. That was in the envelope. Like, it was very clear.
No. The stuff in the envelope was from the guy from when she was 15.
Well, that was some of it, yes. But there was the picture in there.
I think that was the guy.
No, that was Hank with the Ich liebe dich, and
I think it was the guy
from
when she was young.
No, Ich liebe dich, and well, maybe.
Are you having a stroke?
Well, no, that's just German for I love you. I just know how to speak German.
I think that was the guy, that the story she shares, the older man that she was in love with when she was 15. I think that's who that is. And it's unfortunate they did not make these people very obvious, because if we're going back to an old picture, I wasn't sure if that was Hank. I wasn't sure if it was her husband.
It looked like Hank.
And I think the producers really blew it here. They should have had like a blonde man, a bald man, a brown-haired man, a black-haired man with bangs. They should have made these characters very different looking, because it was unclear, but I do believe the picture that she was holding onto was the guy that she had been with when she was 15.
I'm okay with leaving some things unanswered, but yes, in this case, it should have been clear, or more clear, whether or not this person was or was not Hank. Or the other person, or someone else. I thought it was Hank up until she shared the story at the very end. And the story at the very end is important because Alma has been telling the story of how she was sexually assaulted when she was a teenager. And she comes clean to her husband and shares that that's not exactly true, that she had a crush on a friend of her dad's when she was 14, right before she turned 15, and would go to the office with her dad so she could spend time with him. And even though he said, this isn't appropriate, you're too young, she pushed a situation where she had a relationship with him for 6 months. So she recanted, but didn't recant in a way that anything in that envelope would have represented. Because she said she took it back later, like he didn't, but he'd already killed himself, or he was... Yeah, 3 years later,
the guy had killed himself.
Yeah,
but
so maybe that was.
But the thing was, is
so
she
all Maggie saw was the fact that she had accused somebody who was older of taking advantage of her. So she thought, okay, I'm going to be able to go to Maggie, or I'm going to be able to go to Alma, and she's going to back me up.
And to be clear, that was what was in the envelope. So the envelope that Maggie unearthed at the beginning of the party had a clipping about Alma and the situation of recanting the story. It had a picture of the man that she had this tryst with when she was 15, and it had some sort of kerchief that she was smelling. So it makes no sense that in that stuff from the guy she was with when she was 15 that there would be a picture of Hank.
Yeah, I guess.
So, so Maggie is exposed to all this information in Alma's envelope hidden in the bathroom. And then shortly after, she comes to Alma with a similar story of, I was taken advantage of by a man that was older than me. And
given your history.
Yeah, given your history. And
what history?
Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And it is because Alma hadn't realized that Maggie had gone through her envelope and taken something.
She still shouldn't have had the envelope there.
So this actually opens up another what would you do? So at the end, Alma shares this story about when has her first kiss with this older man, her dad's friend, the day after her 15th birthday. And this relationship lasts for 6 months. And then the guy says, I found someone that's more age appropriate for me. And then he's friends with her dad. So, he comes to parties at the house with his new girlfriend, and Alma was like, he was shoving it in my face. He was trying to, hurt me. But the man was just, living his life, bringing his date. And Alma's husband, Frederick, said, your recanting actually was what happened, is this man did take advantage of you. And she's like, no, I pushed it. I made it happen. He said he couldn't, but I wouldn't allow it. And Frederick is telling her that it doesn't matter if you pushed it or you tried to make it happen. As adults, we have responsibilities, and that responsibility is no, it doesn't matter how much you said or wanted something. The adult is there and should be protecting the decisions of a child.
Does it, so is there blame to be put on Alma? Absolutely. Is there 50% or more blame to be put on Alma? Absolutely not. Because you're right. Like, as the adult in the situation, your blame starts at 50% and goes up from there. And as a child, your blame starts at 50% and goes down from there.
As a girl growing up, I can share, in 6th grade, we had a teacher. His name was Mr. Cozy. And this is kind of funny. Mr. Cozy, if you're listening or if you're still alive. Anyway, Mr. Cozy, C-O-Z-Y. And he was cute, and he was one of the only male, if not the only male teacher at the school at the time. And all the girls loved Mr. Cozy. He was cute, and he was funny, he was friendly, he was very unteacher-like, and all the girls loved Mr. Cozy. Would it have been okay for Mr. Cozy to have a relationship with anyone in the 6th grade?
No!
Absolutely no!
No!
No. Doesn't matter how aggressively someone pushed it or flirted with him or anything like that. You don't do that as a grown adult when someone is a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Never. Not only, as an adult, it's bad. As an adult teacher, it's doubly bad.
Yeah, any position of authority where that dynamic is really it's important. And that was also the situation with Alma and her dad's friend. He wasn't just some random guy. He was her dad's friend. And not only is that not right to do with Alma, also a pretty messed up thing to do to your friend to be doinking around with his daughter.
Yeah. I'm just going to say yeah and move on that one.
Yeah. But it was interesting in the fact that Alma did not see the problem. She was like, I loved him, and it was me. He was a good person. He was a good man. And really how complicated things can actually feel, even though the situation is, cut and dry on what the facts are, but, it's how people interpret things. And
you still can't convince me that Flight of the Navigator is a bad movie.
I don't know what that is.
It was a movie that came out when I was like 8 or 9, and I watched it and I loved it
Okay.
because I was 8 or 9, and
Okay.
that's what my brain was, and that's what it interpreted. And 40 years later, I've never seen the movie again. Like, and I'm sure if I watched it, I'd be like, "This is effing terrible." But my brain at 8 or 9 said this is a good movie, and thus it is stuck in my head as a good movie. When you're 15 and you go through this and you feel these feelings and you have all of this, that is what your recollection is. And it is not in any way, shape, or form easy, even for the most educated of people, to go back and say, maybe I'm not at fault. Especially if you've gotten to the point that you've actually lived with that shame and guilt for years and years.
I don't think she lived with any shame and guilt. She loved him. All of the photo is full of "I love you, I love you." I don't think she had any shame or guilt.
Oh, she did 3 years later when he killed himself.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, but
I mean, there you go. That's the shame and guilt she's living with. Not necessarily that she.
I thought you
had
meant
a
over this
thing with-
situation.
Not that she tried to have a tryst with him or anything, but the whole.
Yeah.
She said something and killed herself. Like, that's going to kind of freeze all of that in your brain and just hammer it in. And it's going to be real difficult to truly have you believe.
And the irony is her retracting the story was like she still didn't see that any part of that was sexual assault. Like she saw this as a consensual romantic relationship. I mean, not words that she used, but
it's exactly what I said. Yeah. When you're that young, that's the way you viewed it then.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't thinking, "Oh, I'm a child with an adult, and I should, I can't make up my own decisions because I'm a child," and like you don't think that.
Yeah, especially when you're 15. When you're a 15-year-old girl,
you're a woman.
Oh,
in your mind, you are at least.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there was teenage girls in my high school who were dating college boys.
Yeah, no, you believe you're a woman, and if you're a 15-year-old guy, you believe you're a man. Like, and good luck convincing someone that age otherwise. But also, like, going back in your brain, you're not going to think I was stupid and I wasn't capable of making these decisions, even though you were capable and incapable of making those decisions.
Yeah, and I don't think any of these characters at all were particularly likable characters.
No.
And throughout the film, they threw you so many different scenarios and interactions between the characters, but it was still left for you to infer who was telling the truth. And we're all going to come to our own conclusions, and some might be the same and some might be different. And it's just a really good reminder in the fact that you can agree on the facts of the situation, which are very hard to distinguish. Like, I can say this table is brown, and you could say, well, no, it's dark brown. Or I could say the sky is blue, and you say, actually, it's kind of hazy today, and it's kind of gray. So even the things that we think we can agree upon as facts, they're still interpretation.
Yeah, but she plagiarized.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.